I was a student in Goddard College for Creative Writing in Plainsfield, Vermont. I was working on an MFA and a novel. It was a low residency program, which meant that every semester I would spend 10 to 11 days on campus and complete the rest of the work at home with an assigned advisor. There were many ghost stories circulating. Some were about Suzanne Martin, a witch. Supposedly the beam she was hanged on was now part of Goddard's garden structure. There were even stories about the runaway slaves. The property provided secret hideaways for the runaways. There was even stories about Robert Frost's ghost, which is said to haunt the place where he wrote some of his famous poems. One night, after intense studying, workshops, reading, and writing, I undressed and climbed into bed. I closed my eyes and something nudged me awake. In front of me was a bed. I had opted out of the roommate arrangement and had the room to myself. At least that's what I thought. Instead, there was a silhouette before me. Scared but curious, I said hi. There was no answer. Everything was dark, except for the figure. I couldn't see around me, but I felt like there were other spirits in the room. They appeared to be unfriendly. It was as if they wanted me to leave. I did. I ran into the corridor. No one was around. I sat on the couch in the day room and tried to make sense of the encounter. I was afraid to go back into that room. A couple of hours went by and I heard the door open. It creaked, like someone trying to be quiet, but the wooden door and floors betrayed them. I was relieved to see a dormmate hurry to the bathroom. I didn't tell her about my experience with unwanted visitors. She went back into her room, and I decided to return to mine. I turned the lights on in my room, and after reassuring myself that the ghosts were gone, I fell asleep. The next day I had a ghost story too. And mine was real. It inspired me to write a short story, In Her Image. I have seen things before and have been able to see things since I was a kid. I've seen scary demons, spirits, guardians, you name it. But I've never seen anything like this thing, or felt something that can only be described as a whole, like an invading wrongness. Usually I do not fear them, even demon ones, the ones that do not feel like they belong here. But I just went out for a run tonight, at about 7:45 in Northfield, and guys, I'm terrified. I don't know what it is. I have never seen the likes of this. I proceeded to pass the street lamps to the darker area. The surrounding area is all woods. It suddenly got a lot darker, and I saw this thing, about 10 to 14 feet tall, like a hound but scaly and rotted, with something that appeared like horns on its head, but it was off in the trees so I couldn't see too much detail. I heard an odd clicking-like sound, and something like a wet sigh, loud and close. I've never felt this kind of terror before in my life. I do not believe it to be a hellhound. It seemed much stronger than one. I have no idea what it is. Few times have I truly felt something I cannot chase off, but this thing is wrong. Please, any help. I don't want it to be hanging around. I live with a family who has a baby and this thing needs to go. I didn't dare turn my back. I had this overwhelming feeling that if I turned my back, something would happen. I maintained eye contact until I reached the street lamps. It seemed like it wouldn't cross into the light, then ran back home. Please, any help on what this thing is? There is an expression my friend and I use. Where the witch walk not, nor should you. Never saw it so fitting before. I'm a psychic person, meaning that I can see and feel the presence of dead people. My house has been silent at times, but it can also be very noisy. One day I was trading rooms with my now 16-year-old sister, Steph. This room connects to the attic. I was fixing up my bed because it was totally late. I happened to look at the attic door for no apparent reason. I saw this for 2 to 3 seconds. There, in a black robe, was a 5-foot at least person that walked in front of the attic door. Later on, my grandmother was diagnosed with breast cancer and soon died. Last summer in 2006, I was asleep and suddenly woke up because my radio turned on, and it made a screechy noise. And then the plug was pulled out, and a running sound was heard. No one was awake. Soon after that, my uncle died of a seizure at 29. One night I was asleep, and I couldn't wake up. I panicked. Then I calmed down. I can barely control my lips and moved them to say fuck off. In a minute I can move. My sister's friend Bree is a psychic too, as soon as she set foot in my room. After I said, come meet Blueface, she said, a man sitting on your bed smiling pervishly. He looks maybe 16. Also, he has black eyes and a bluish tan face. In other words, he looked like he drowned. Later that month, I felt something or someone crawl up to me. I heard a whispering voice say my name. Sharon. And I snapped, fully awake, panicking. I thought, no, I must fight it. This is my room now. Then I looked over to the corner, and that's when I noticed that I was psychic. There was Blueface's body. I got up and ran to my sister's room and woke her up to tell her what happened. We both stayed awake for the rest of the night. Previously, I have had the blank out again. Also, I'm 207 pounds now, and I'm still trying to lose weight, so I was putting up signs to prevent me from eating like a cow. Soon I had heard knocking, loud knocking, so I walked out to my sister's room and waited until it stopped. When I came back to finish my signs, knocks were heard again. All I said was shut up and it stopped. Don't believe me? You should come and see. It started about 2 years ago when I first started dating my current fiance. We were laying on the couch in what used to be a second living room in the basement. My fiance fell asleep while we were watching Lord of the Rings. I couldn't fall asleep, so I kept watching. All of a sudden, I see someone out of the corner of my eye. I turned towards the living room door and saw the shadow of a tall, thin man. He looked at me and all I could feel was dread. My fiance's father called down to us, and the man disappeared. I didn't see or hear from him again until now. I was babysitting my little brother for the night at my house. He was sound asleep next to me when I heard breathing behind me. I didn't see anyone behind me, and my fiance was upstairs talking to his parents. I ignored it until I could actually feel the breath on my neck. I heard a man's voice say hello to me, and that was the last straw. I grabbed my brother, ran up the stairs to the guest room. We spent the rest of the night there. The next day I went to my class as usual from 8 to 9:30, and my fiance watched my brother for me. When I arrived back home, the couch was moved. He told me that while I was gone, the couch just moved to the left, all by itself. That frightened me even more. The activity in the house had started speeding up. Now my brother is afraid to come to my house, and I'm afraid of being alone. Every day I hear voices talking when no one's home and none of the televisions are on. Any advice on what to do would be very helpful. Recently, I have moved 1,000 miles away from where this happened, but my coworker and close friend are still having experiences with this. Not too long ago, I lived in Vermont and worked for a property management company. I worked in an area with lots of tourists and obviously ski mountains. So I worked as a housekeeper and property manager at the same time. There were about 100 houses that we checked and kept accounts on, and several we cleaned. Several of them have been haunted, but one in particular is the oddest of them all. In this house, my coworker and I were working downstairs and we thought somebody had come in. It sounded like someone in heavy boots was knocking them off, so we went upstairs to see what it was. No one was there. But it sounded like there were boots being kicked off upstairs. We checked the garage and the driveway. No one had pulled up, so no one could be upstairs. As this was a new account, we shrugged it off to the house just settling and went back downstairs to clean. A few minutes later, we heard what sounded like something heavy being thrown against the wall and boots being knocked off. We ran upstairs to see if anything had happened, and nothing was there. So we set up a recorder on my phone and went back downstairs. We stayed down there for a while while the recorder was upstairs, and it sounded like boots at first. Then something being thrown against the wall a few times, and then boots. It went quiet, and my coworker and I go back upstairs. As we reached the steps, the crashing started again and then stopped. I continued upstairs with my coworker, following reluctantly behind. Nothing was moved upstairs. I checked the recording and it had picked up the noise on my phone. The next time my coworker was cleaning there with a new girl, and she filmed where she thought the noise was coming from. And the other corner as well. In the corner, and the fireplace in the video, is a pulsing shadow that stops when the noises start, then starts pulsing again when the noises stop. It covers about 10 to 12 feet from the ceiling to the floor in the corner while the other corner is empty. I was wondering if anyone had any similar experiences or might know what's going on with this, as my coworker is still working there and is being frightened by it. Hey ghouls, I do very much apologize that this video was very short, especially for a state video. I know there's a lot of good places that are haunted in Vermont, but I couldn't find any self-written stories from people who, experienced things. And these were the ones that I could find that were at least semi-interesting, and they were all pretty short. So I apologize. I will do my best to make up for it with the podcast tomorrow, and also perhaps with Monday's video. But thanks for watching, ghouls. It means a lot to me. I guess that's it. I have nothing really to say. So, as always, the last video will be on the top left. The next video will be on the bottom left. All my social medias are on the screen, as well as in the description box below. And remember, there's always someone or something watching you.